So what are our top meta decks for Blazing Dominion May 2026? Make sure you guys expandis that finger to kiss the subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more power patrons. Oh my god. So Shade the Obscure, I guess, is just a match made in heaven for this deck. So many people are so extremely hyped up to be able to join the power patrons out here. Now, I mean, it's going to depend on what build is going to be the best. You know, we're going to have Doomsy, we're going to have Art Mage. You know, which of these, decks is going to be the one to take down the gold for this? I don't know, but Archmage did look like, out of the Kongs tournament, was having a little bit of a successful run. So I'm a little bit happy to report that we'll probably be seeing something a little bit interesting coming out of that forefront, because that seems to be the case. Like, honestly, it's been a long time since Konami's made a TCG exclusive that just was this exciting. Now, we still have Radiant Typhoon running around in the background. This is all assuming, we don't see a ban list or something to functionally shift around the meta. But the way that the current meta is, Pure Radiant Typhoon is still a deck. Obviously, most of the time you're looking at Radiant Typhoon, it's going to be splashed into other decks, but we'll talk more about probably the more predominant pile of that later. The Pure variant, however, still has good tricks. It's able to grind through a decent set of the meta, and I know a lot of people kind of want this deck to go away because it is a tough matchup for a lot of players, especially if you're just not familiar with the interactions that the deck as a whole actually is capable of doing. So, and Crocea is pretty freaking annoying as a card. I too love just not being able to really play the game. And then we still have Mitsurugi. To those of you that are still calling for a ban on Mitsurugi this far out, get over it. The deck has pretty much been reduced to a former shell of itself now. We're not seeing the demise until probably June, which might make a little bit of a difference when it comes to, the fundamentals of that deck's evolution much later. But for the time being, I don't think that Mitsurugi is going anywhere. It's still a top contender for sure. If you're going to sit here and you're going to be like, no, I don't genuinely think that this deck is a contender, you're doing it wrong. Just because we had a little bit of a dip during the last regional block where some events the deck just really was not showing up in contention, which was fine. You're not going to see this deck running around every single tournament, but it's still here and it's still doing its thing. Now, I told you we were going to talk about the Radiant Typhoon piles. Probably the most notorious one has been the yummy Radiant Typhoon Tri-Brigade pile, but this spun a lot of other variations out there. But the takeaway here is Yummy as a whole is a really decent strategy right now. Like, truthfully, the deck is able to do some very disgusting playlines. A lot more than I think people really wanted to see. So, now that we've had time to kind of process and see, how is this matchup working? I mean, it has been one of the best combo, actually, it might be the best combo pile kind of existing within the meta right now. Just because, like, one playline bridges into another, and if you get cut off of one, you just get to extend into a whole other line. And that's kind of crazy to think about. Next up is still Malice. Malice has been left in a little bit former of a position. I'm not saying that Malice is dead, but like it feels like it's power scaling that it has. Like the deck has been calming down a decent amount, and thankfully that's a good thing. Konami, I know during the last ban list people wanted to see Malice get hit more. I think the OCG took March Rabbit and put it to 1, which was probably should have been one of the fatal blows to the deck, but Malice is still Malice. When you have a generic Link climbing toolbox deck, it's kind of able just to play around everything. Nobody's really playing Lancia right now. When the tools for a deck's success disappear from the meta, it's going to be slightly more successful. And obviously, people want this deck to be gone like Mitsurugi, but I still think it's fine. Let the people that want to play these decks, let them play them. Next up is Vanquish Soul. So, Vanquish Soul started off very strong. Nobody is going to deny that. You know, like, the deck had a pretty good run for, like, the last chunk of the ban list. But as we were exiting into Blazing Dominion format, Vanquish Soul kind of started to fall off a little bit. Not in, like, a crazy amount, but it became noticeable to a lot of the player base that we would start to see, oh, hey, you know, this deck is de-accelerating because, you know, if the deck can't get its normal summon off and you've got the meta rotating in, playing things like Solemn Warning. When cards like these enter into the meta, oh, absolutely, a deck like Vanquish Soul is going to have a hard time because they lost, you know, their best extender. I mean, obviously, Stake the Soul still exists, but, like, 2 interruptions and the deck is done. Still will remain a top contender. I feel like putting it where it is here might be a little bit high, but I think we'll see a shift around. Branded, not a single thing has changed for Branded. If anything, they got the Fata Dragno, which is a pretty cool card. I'm super excited to report that, you know, that card looks very fun, especially for fusion-based decks. Like, kind of looking forward to that one. But Branded still has Triple Fallen and Virtuous. Still has all of the same tools that the deck initially has had for a while. So my question becomes, you know, where do we go from here? And that's kind of where I am. I think the deck will remain one of the highest competitors in this block. It's just, it's going to have a hard time with Kewl Tune, especially when it comes down to stripping out one-ups from their extra deck, because that might be a problem. Dracotail. This one is, I really didn't know how I wanted to put Dracotail and Branded on this top cut. Dracotail's representation, obviously, like, it was the best deck pre-Blazing Dominion, by statistics. But time has kind of eroded this deck down a little bit, and we've been seeing less people repping this deck in general. It's not been an exciting force to actually see. So I do think we will have to have time tell with this one. Obviously, you know, if we see Rahu getting restricted, you know, anytime soon, then that would probably effectively take away any real shot this deck has. But I think it's already seeing less numbers, and we're going to have to let Kewl Tune meta really, really see where this one's going to go. Because it's definitely got some tools. Now, I wanted to put Elvennote up here. It's separate away from the Power Patron good stuff, because this is still a Synchro Toolbox deck that has a great number of good assets to it. And obviously, you know, we can't stick a Baron in the main monster zone to kind of hunker down on things, but I think that's fine. You know, we don't always have to follow the same formula that the OCG does, but I still wanted to leave it on the top knee here, because I feel like this deck, it has some of the greatest unexplored potential in the TCG. Especially, you know, when you're looking at, like, the Fiendsmith variants. I, too, love being able to make Armades and pivot on into a full combo line of Fiendsmith on top of all of the synchro bullshit that the deck gets to do. Like, you have a lot of strong tools for sure, and it is going to be a good contender for sure. Nobody is going to even be doubting that at this point. And then the best deck in the room is Kewl Tune. If you're sitting here and you're like, no, Kewl Tune's not a good deck, then you've never played Yu-Gi-Oh! In your life. Time to hand your deck in and mosey on along. The reality is hand-peeking knowledge, extra deck ripping. Kewl Tune's going to be here for a very long time. On top of Naturia Rose Whip denying you spell and trap interactions is incredibly painful. I do think, obviously, you know, they're going to have to do something about this later on, or else we're going to just have an absolutely shitty time kind of going forward. So here's to hoping that Konami cleans up Kewl Tune meta sooner than later. I'm cool with kind of writing this out, but I do kind of expect a ban list around June, but we'll have to wait and see. So please, comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.